Hello, I am Shaina Rose Woolley. I am actually usually behind the scenes for Seed&Spark's events, but I'm Seed&Spark's event manager, and today I'm going to be talking to Haji. Haji is a really incredible photographer who documents, like the Black queer community in Rio de Janeiro, and I'm really in love with his work, and I'm super excited to talk to him and learn about his process and how he captures such intimate and beautiful portraits of people. So without further ado, here is Haji. Hey.
Hi, Shaina. Thank you so much for having me over. I'm really flattered to be invited for the panel, and yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you guys about my work and everything. Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I just found your work through Instagram and was like immediately in love with it. It's so like intimate and beautiful and like has kind of like a soft quality about everything. It's very like dreamy and yeah. So I would love for you to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started photographing.
Yeah, sure. So, Rodrigo Oliveira. I'm 28 years old. I'm from the suburbs of Rio, and I'm a self-taught photographer, so like everything I know about photography was experimental. I've been working with it for I don't know for 6 years now, and yeah, so I started this documentary, Carioca Negro de Queer, which documents the experience of queer POC here in Rio de Janeiro, and yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh no, don't worry. I'm gonna pull up my screen and share some of the images from it for people who might not have seen your work. Um, yeah. So, I mean, these are all just like they're so stunning. How long have you been working on this series?
Um, I think I started actually last year, 2019. It's been a year of work so far. I've been like wanting to do a documentary and work on a project for quite a while, like for about 3 years, and then I was looking for something that I could really relate to and something that was familiar and intimate to me. And then back in that time, when I had the idea for the project, I was living in Germany, and then I decided to move back to Brazil. Like despite everything that was happening in the country, it was just before the latest presidential election, and like we knew what was coming ahead of us with the new president. But I thought that, especially during these difficult times, having someone who's near a dictator in our government, that it was really necessary to have a work done for the Black queer community. And then, having that in mind, I left everything in Germany and came back to Brazil to start, giving life to my work.
Wow. Okay, so you actually came back to Brazil specifically to start, a photographic project that, was close to your heart. How long were you in Germany for?
I stayed there for 2 years, 2 full years. I was working as an au pair and to pay for my studies. And I was doing American studies back in that time. And that's when I started to realize how important it was to create a narrative, to tell a story. And back in that time, my work with photography was very wide. I had photographed everything from nature to portraits to travel photography. So I was like, a little bit lost in what
Mm-hmm.
to do with my work, and I was missing this like narrative part. And that's when I decided, like if I want to do a project, if I want to create a narrative, it's got to be something that's really close to me. And then I thought of the issues in Brazil and what was going on, and what needed to, like have some light shed on. And then I came to the realization that, my own community was in need of attention. So I shifted my eye towards it.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in some of the like technical aspects of your work, like what kind of camera you use, and like are most of these photos taken like, out and about with like little planning, or do you more like plan the shoots? And how often do you take photos like on location versus in like a little studio type setting with lights and things?
So like most of the work I've been doing so far has been like outdoor portraits of like friends of mine or people that I meet outside. I do a lot of photography in LGBT events, so queer parties and queer events happening in the city. I don't work for the parties. I just take my camera, and I don't know. I feel like I see the people there being like who they want to be and putting out their best of their identity and being really honest with themselves. And it's also a safe space, so I feel safe working with LGBT events. And I most of the time I only use the available light. So even if I'm working, like with mostly natural light. When I can't use a natural light, I use the artificial light that is available to me as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it might be like lights from the street or from the club, or and
Mm-hmm.
very rarely I use a speed light. I don't even own one, for example.
Cool. Okay, what about this photo? I think, and there's two other photos, at least on your Instagram page, that are really similar to this one. So I highly encourage everybody to go look at them. I'm really curious what your process was on this. Like, what is that beautiful light flare from? Was this just using the lights in the environment?
So that one is an exception.
Okay,
So this
fair.
photo, this photo, it was taken at my friend's house. The model in the picture,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing some photographs to help him build his portfolio. So he's an actual model, and
I can tell.
then I borrowed, so I borrowed my boyfriend's speed lights, and I put like a little I don't know what that's actually called in English, but it's like a piece of film that is colored.
Oh, probably
Um,
like a gel.
yeah, a gel, exactly. So I put the gel on top, and then I actually had the glass bottle to give the flare effect. So
Oh,
I held
cool.
the glass jar in front of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had the speed light pointing up, and the light was just bouncing from the walls that were white.
Wow.
So that's everything like impromptu. I had no idea how the shots were going to come out,
Oh,
and I
love
was
that.
really surprised with the effects, and I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I use a lot in my work. I put a piece of like, I think it's called tulle. I don't like Tulle. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's just like netted fabric. And I put it over my lens with a rubber band, and it just makes everything like really kind of dreamy, and like even sometimes produces those little like X starburst lights on
Hmm.
just whatever highlights are in the photo.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
bought
I
a
love.
filter for that as well. Like, it's like kind of like a blurring filter, for the lens itself, and also like it gives like the little star effect on
Mhm.
spotlight, and that's really interesting as well. I think it brought like a different energy to my work that I really love.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I love how soft all of your work is, and it's just like, oh, it's. I'm so impressed that so much of your work is taken like without planning and kind of impromptu and without bringing in any lights. I'm like very much a. I like to plan my shoots, and I like to like buy props, and I like to use lights. I don't. I almost never shoot in natural light, so I'm like, yeah, I'm always really, I admire people who don't need that planning to get really beautiful images.
I want to try it out with more like using more artificial light as well and working in studio. I just like it's more a thing of like not really having the chance. Like I don't have a chance to work in like studios or indoor environments very often. So because of the like the lack of resources, I got really used to like using whatever is available to me. And actually, like I like it because it feels like my work is more organic, and I like that organic touch to it. Like keeping things natural, and it's
Totally.
challenging, but like I like a good challenge, so it's fine.
Yeah, totally. All right, so a little bit more onto the like the heart and the story and the narrative of your work. I was wondering, so a close friend of mine is Brazilian, and I was talking to her a bit about, Brazil and the community in Brazil. And so she told me that in Brazil, the Black Lives Matter movement, I think like it translates in English to Black lives and the people in the favelas matter. And from what I understand, a lot of who you photograph are people who live in favela communities. So I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about that community, maybe explain it to some people watching who might not know what that is.
Sure. So the favelas are, communities mostly located in the peripheries of Rio de Janeiro, but they can also be found like downtown and even in areas that are not like in the metropolitan region as well. So they're basically, a group of houses houses and communities that are neglected by the government. So like infrastructure is not really the best. The houses are usually irregular, so people they build their houses their own, and like the streets are like little lanes and everything. And with that, like with these neglects of the government, the only attention that they put towards favela is with the excuse of like the drug and wars. So like the only interference that the government does in the favelas are with the police, and with the police it comes all the brutality, and like that's where most of the black community is located. Like the favela is predominantly black, and then you have like these like necropolitics, this like genocide behavior of extinguish everything that the government thinks it's not worth it, or like or useful for them, I don't know. And then so these areas, so that's very tied to the Black Lives Matter movements, because it deeply affects the black community. And then we have strikes and movements that was happening in the favelas like way before those like recent movements started in the US as well. But as I said, it's an area that the government doesn't really pay much attention to, and then the news doesn't cover as much as well. And it's just so many innocent people dying because of like things and issues that the government continues to masquerade.
All right, I don't know what's going on with my audio.
I can hear you now.
Does this sound better if I take off my headphones?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah. Oh no, but now I can't hear you. Shoot. All right. All right. Technical difficulties. Unfortunately, if I take off my headphones, I can't hear anyone. All right. Well, hopefully it's
fine.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's so heavy, everything that you were just saying. And, I think, unfortunately, there's so much, intersection with like, in both Brazil and the US in terms of the race of the majority of people who are impoverished and the people who are facing, like the worst pollution from environmental irresponsibility by the government, which has such detrimental effects. So I love that you're able to, make such like beautiful and joyful images of, of a community that faces so much hardship at the face of just discrimination and the government not caring. So I think I'm wondering, just like, could you speak a little bit about that kind of dichotomy of the group that you photograph and the way that you capture them being so joyous, colorful, and beautiful?
Yeah, that's been one of my concerns when I started to have the idea of documenting something, like covering an issue. Like very often when I see people covering subjects that like are hard to talk about, and it's not usually involving like racism, prejudice, discrimination, or some kind of neglect. It's always like towards a sad light, like it. And I didn't want to feel like I was exploiting the suffering, and I wanted to kind of run away from it. And instead of like using my work as documentation that used from that suffering to show, to reveal an issue to people, I wanted to use it as a celebration. So like I wanted to celebrate our culture, to celebrate our identities, and with that, in capturing the beauty and the resilience and strength that we have in us, like in hopes of maybe like waking people up and just making them realize that this is a beautiful community. This is a people who like respect each other, and like the only thing that we do that they interpret as being, like um, something bad that goes against their values and stuff is being ourselves, and there's no harm in that, and I just can't get my head around how people feel so offended, by just how we dress and how we celebrate and how we live our lives. And like I focus in showing the beauty in all of that, and how it is good, not just for us but for everybody, to be honest with themselves and really project on the outside how they feel on the inside. That's I think that's how I try to manage working with beauty while talking about something that is delicate.
Yeah, absolutely. I that just reminds me of a really good and powerful article that I read recently. Um, we can link to it later because I don't have it exactly on the top of my head, but it was essentially about the importance. I mean, it was from the perspective of an American and the Black Lives Matter movement happening in America right now. And it was addressing the importance of Black people covering the movement. And, like just one of the most important ways that non-Black photographers can be allies to the Black community right now is by, putting their camera down and letting the people from those communities document what's happening so that there's not a white lens or some kind of like, just that's how stories get so misconstrued. And that's how we, start seeing people as not as joyous and powerful and all the things that they are, because somebody who doesn't know what it's like to be them is trying to document them. So that,
I totally agree. Like I read the article as well, and I think it was Giancarlo who wrote it, and
yeah,
I
I
mean
think so.
he's right. Like it's a very fair point. It's like for a really long time we have had our history being told by the white gaze, and I think now like it's really important for us to have our story told by ourselves with no bias. And yeah, and I think that it is like a good initiative from white photographers to take a step back, and that like our people tell our stories, and that's it's important for the representation of the whole community itself as well.
Totally. Yeah. I hope that I don't know, becomes more clear in America, because there's definitely, I mean, hopefully part of the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening now is also to really, support people who are already doing the work and just like, pass the mic, quote unquote. It's like there's already so many amazing Black documentary photographers in America. Just like let them be the people to tell these stories. Yeah. So I guess there's so many things that I want to ask you. I'm like, I don't know where to start. But I guess, could you, like, I know, how much time, if any, have you spent in America?
Sorry.
I said, how much time, if any, have you spent in America?
I've been in the US only for a week, and only to New York as well. So I haven't like really explored a lot of the US. I've had my foot got stuck. Um, I have, but I've had a lot of American friends. I did some studying and working overseas, and like during this time, I got to meet a lot of Americans and see like what their perspective is, how their like reality is being a black person in America. Um, yeah, and it was different. I mean, my experience in the U.S. As a black person was, I don't know. It's not the same as it is here. I think here in Brazil, like things are not in like the understanding of race is not so black and white. I think that in the U.S. it's still very um it's clear like what is black and what is white. And here in Brazil, everything is so mixed that like understanding race, it's done in a different level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It's so interesting just like how somebody's identity can completely change based on what community they're in, what part of the world they're in, and like the way that other people see you obviously affects so much how the individual sees themselves. So hearing the experiences of, just of any marginalized identity being in one place and experiencing something and then going somewhere else and like having a completely different understanding of like, I don't know, how others see them.
Like for me, like even so my first like realization of like of what it meant to like to be black and to feel black was living in Australia. When I moved to Australia, that's when I started to notice how often people would direct themselves to me as being a black person. And in Brazil, like it was not really something that was like said to me several times, because like like I'm a light skinned black, and things are different between light skinned black and black skinned black. How the like racism and discrimination, like it's hits you much harder the darker your skin is. And and then there in Australia, like I was one of the darkest like around, and that was like, and that's when I faced like, okay, so here I'm definitely black, and like I'm having the reaffirmation of like of my identity now. And that's when I started to realize and to really get more in sync with my identity and claiming my identity. So for me, it was really important, like all the time that I've spent overseas in like white dominated places, because like we're a majority here in Brazil, so it's different as well. And but there, like things just became very clear to me. And it like it's kind of in a sad way make me come closer to my identity and my cultural heritage.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so how your kind of storyline of like you grew up in Rio de Janeiro and then you went to Germany, then Australia. So like how long were you away from Rio before you came back and decided to start a documentary?
So I grew up in Rio. Then I left 2 years the city to study in the rural part of the state of Rio. Then I got a scholarship to study in Australia. So I went to Australia first between 2013 and 2015. And then I came back to Brazil for a year, and then I moved to Germany. So I was in Germany from 2016 to 18. Um, and then I finally came back to start working in Brazil. But then like here in Rio, like the reality is it's difficult. Making a living here in Rio is very hard. Especially like the city is too big. Everything is so spread out. So for you to get downtown is like it takes me from my hometown 2 hours, 2 hours and a half to get to the city. So like in terms of scale, like for me in Germany, if I drove 2 hours, I was in a different country. And here in Rio, like I'm driving 2 hours, I'm still like within the city. And Wait, I think I lost a bit of track of your
Oh, you're
question.
good.
I'm spacing out a little bit. Sorry.
No, don't worry at all. So were you studying photography or working as a photographer in both Australia and Germany?
No, not at all. Actually, I was doing like very different things. When I moved to Australia, I was studying biology, um, and then that's when I bought my first camera because I wanted to document the wildlife. So I wanted to work with wildlife photography and connect my studies with photography. Back in that day, I was so in love with National Geographic, and I thought at first that I was that I loved the magazine because of all the wildlife, the different places that I was seeing there, and the different people. But then actually, I came to the realization that I actually love the magazine because of the photographs and the photographers, and like all the visual storytelling that I used to see there. And then only in Melbourne, Australia, that I got pretty close to the urban environment. I mean, like I live in Rio and the city of Rio, but I grew up in a suburb that is so far from everything. It's basically an island. I'm just surrounded by water and the rainforest. I mean, it doesn't sound bad, but it's pretty amazing. But it's too far from the city,
Yeah.
and here the people still have kind of like a fishing village mentality, and it's very old fashioned, and it hasn't grown along with the city. But there in Australia, I was 20 minutes away from the city, and so I was really in contact with everything that was urban, and then I started falling in love with like uh, documenting and photographing people interested in anthropology and understanding and connecting with others, um, and and that's when like really I started shifting for portrait photography and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually had a really similar experience for a while. I really wanted to be a like National Geographic nature photographer. And then, slowly I kind of realized that I was just a lot more interested in photos of people and like making connections with people who I'm able to create art with through photography. And that became, one of the most important things to me. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about like your Black identity, your identity, and how those, feel together or separate, and maybe in these different places you've been in, like how those two parts of you have come together.
Well, like it's he because here in Brazil, like we have like a different kind of like when you do, how can I explain that, when you do like a survey, like a national survey or something, and you can like tick the races, there's like something that is between, like it's not, you're not a black, or but you're definitely not white. And then I was used to to being told that that's what I should tick, like I was neither black or white. And then but living overseas, there's no such thing. Like I was definitely black. Um, and here, like after I came back, after I started letting my hair grow and everything, it was like those little things that I would do to that was closer, to the identity of my ancestors, that brought me into like not only accepting my identity but being seen as with the identity I claim. And sorry, I'm really spacing out. It's just
No, you're totally fine. We're diving right into like personal identity things, and I'm sure it's all a lot, and I really appreciate you being so open to talk about all this stuff. I think back as to like being a marginalized photographer and artist, like what importance do you feel that photographers and artists just have on society and like the understanding of one another and people who are different than each other?
I'm sorry, I am so nervous.
No,
Can you just
you're
ask that
doing so
again?
good.
Like,
Yeah, of course.
my heart is
Just
racing so much.
I'm really enjoying this conversation, and you're doing really wonderful. I asked just like, what importance do you feel that photographers have in just like the cultural history of, of the communities they belong to?
I mean, it's like it's important for us to do something from the inside. Like to work with our community. And like for the communities that I work for, as you said, marginalized, and like underdogs. I don't know, I'm so tired of people telling us that we can't do something, that like something that we dream of, it's not real. And I think that it's important for us to prove that that's wrong. There are like very places that we can achieve, that we can get to, that people constantly tell us it's not achievable, it's not possible. And like when you see someone working with arts, for example, coming from impoverished community, it means a lot, because you have then so many people looking up to you and feeling that like it is possible for them to do the same thing as well. And like we are covering issues and realities that are sad, but then we have respect for all that suffering. We can relate to everything that we're seeing and be compassionate and so on. So yeah, I think that's something that is, it's really important for for people to be doing for their community.
And I just wanted to mention, if anybody in the comments has any questions, feel free to ask them and we will get them answered. So I'm really curious about like what the dynamic is when you're out like at a queer party, or at an event where you're photographing people. What is the process like of actually making their portrait? Like, do you ask them first, like, or do you like take them just the photos wherever they're standing, or do you say like, hey, like, I want to take a photo of you, like, will you come over into this beautiful light that's shining down? Like, what's that process like?
I do a little bit of both,
Yeah.
because it depends on the setting of the party itself. Because sometimes there are parties that are very lit, and there are like several different kind of lightings, and there are parties that usually it's just black, and then sometimes the lights are flashing or something. But then like the parties and events that I've been going to, like they're very new to me, because I didn't know any of them before I left Rio. And now like I'm closer to the LGBTQ party scene and everything, and like really diving into it. I'm finding out everything about them, and then in these parties, like I've noticed how people feel comfortable, how they are like happy and empowered projecting their identities. And this is fascinating, and it's something that I don't get to see very often, like walking around the city or walking around the suburbs. In the city, like you do see people breaking stigmas, but in the peripheries and in communities, it's not like that. It's not something that is still considered normal or something. But then in the parties, I've seen so many fascinating people like wearing all kinds of stuff and things that I see that sometimes they want to wear on their daily lives, but they just can't. So they put all their efforts in making sure they look good for these events. And so when I get there, it's very easy. Actually, in the beginning, I was kind of like shy of asking people to take the pictures, taking thinking I was, I don't know, invading their space or privacy or something. But it's quite the opposite, like they love the camera, and every time they see the camera, it's like, wow, an amazing pose or something. And so I try to catch them in these moments. It's very quick. It's a matter of eye contact. I make eye contact, I point my camera, and then it's magic. You know, like everything that they put out to me, it's magic. So they give me the photograph. Sometimes I just feel like I'm just there snapping a button, because like everything that they do, they make the picture themselves, and it's awesome because, you know, like I'm capturing a version of themselves that they really love,
Yeah.
and I'm doing the work for them. So it's like the work that I do is for them to feel empowered, and I think, you know, like it's really working the way I want to, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, it's so clear when you look at your photographs. I don't know why my audio is like this. Yeah, just the way people look so empowered and so comfortable in their own skin. I find whenever I'm at an event, I feel really shy to ask people, like, you know, if I can take a photo of them. So I love that, like, you have this, you know, no words required, just like a look to kind of be like, yes, like we're gonna make art together in this moment. Yeah, I think your experience of being at queer parties is so powerful, and I can relate so much. Just being in a space where everybody's queer, like there's no way to look weird or to, you know what I mean, to like,
Yeah.
you know, just the power of like being in a community where people are able to truly be themselves. Like I help produce a circus. It's a queer circus in LA.
Nice.
It's so fun, and just, you know, we had a clown perform, and I was talking to the clown, and they were like, I fucking love this place. Like, not one person has told me they like my costume, because like they dress like that all the time, and out in the real world, people will be like, oh, like, cool costume. And they're like, this is just how I dress every day. Like, this isn't a costume. This is, you know, this is me. So it's just really so beautiful to be in spaces like that, and like queer spaces hold so much power. I've actually brought a friend before to, like, I think to a drag show in LA. She just like started crying and was just like, I've never been around this many queer people in my whole life, like in one room. And just, it's such a different dynamic. Like,
It is.
yeah, like my confidence in a queer space is so much like greater than, you know, anywhere else that I might be.
Yeah,
So
that's right. I feel the same way. I mean, like in some of the parties that I go, it feels like it's not 2020. It feels like another world and another time. And when I see that, you know, like, I can't stop helping thinking like how much better, you know, the world would be with, you know, no binaries and everything just, you know, like being so open. You know, it would be so fascinating. The
yeah,
all those different identities and different you know, agenda and people coming together, it's so beautiful. That's so inspiring.
yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Like in my I love this podcast called Gender Reveal, and the host at the end of every episode asks, like, in your ideal world, what does the future of gender look like? So it's something I think about a lot. And for me, it's just like, you know, self-expression and exploring your gender and exploring the just inherent femininity and masculinity that is in every person on this earth is like the norm. And like, it's weird if you don't explore that. Like I truly think the world, yeah, will be, you know, I think that we will get there. And when we do, I think that it's going to be a much more beautiful place to live, to just see people free to experiment. Like, so yeah,
People
it's
look
like,
back and
it's,
wonder like, why wasn't this normal back then? Because, you know, it just doesn't make sense to, you know, prevent or stop people from, you know, being honest to themselves and yeah, and putting that out into the world. It makes no sense.
yeah, well, I think, you know, hopefully the power that you share through the art you create with the people you meet can inspire other people to really, explore themselves and see how powerful these people are who are able to do that and who are able to go to spaces where they can exist freely and creatively. It's like gender to me should be creative. Like you don't have to be stuck in this one thing. It's like try on everything. Like you won't like some stuff. That's totally fine. You tried it and you didn't like it. Try something else.
True.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful for you to be here. I think, if anyone in the comments wants to ask anything, feel free. But I feel like I have such a better understanding of, of the work that you make and how you make it. And I'm really inspired to, try some of these things in my own work and get out of my comfort zone, which is like a little at-home studio space, and just go out into the world and like connect with strangers who become works of art.
It makes me happy to know that like my work is inspiring other people to keep creating and being creative and expressing themselves. It's what I do my work for. Like I want people to open their eyes and be honest with themselves and be honest with the world as well. And like seeing this working effectively, the gratitude I feel, it's I can't measure. It's it's so enriching.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and thank you so much for for the space to to talk about my story, about my work, and like what the LGBT community here in Rio is facing, and how we're celebrating as well. It's very important for us to have a space to talk about it.
Yeah. Can you share like what can people who are watching this do to support the queer community in Rio, as well as where can they find your work and like buy your art or support your work?
I mean, like, I think that one good way to help like the queer people here share their work, uh, really lift other artists, and don't just keep yourself to the artists that that is around you. Explore what other queer people are doing all over the world. Like be cosmopolitan and go looking for other kind of works. And like the LGBT community goes through homophobia and discrimination all over the world, and like every single place have its particularities, and like getting to know like what's the condition of the LGBT life in other places. It's important. Like it's not as comfortable for us to be LGBT here as it is in LA, for example. So yeah. And about my work, I I have my website, Carioca Negro and Queer, and there you have a bit of details about my work. I'm still like, it's a work in progress. Everything for me with my work and my project is so new. I'm doing everything solo, so it takes extra efforts, and resources are limited. So little by little, I'm putting everything together. If you want like printed work or anything, they can reach me on either through email or for Instagram, whatever. I even have my phone number on my Instagram, so I'm reachable through many ways. And then I can work on prints by demand and everything.
Cool. I already know which prints that I want from you. I want the one that I brought up at the beginning with and now I love it so much more because I know that you're just like experimenting with bottles and gels and things, but there's like 3 in that series and I want them all. I want to have them framed in a line together, and I'm very excited to bless my future space with your art. And
I'm happy to print them for you. It'll be good.
Yeah, I love that. Just like buy people's art, support artists. That's good advice. Thank you so much for chatting and being here. Thank you for creating the work that you create and sharing it.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me here, for hosting me. This this chat has been really important to me, and like it represents me taking next steps in my career as well, and that's very meaningful. So yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, you've been very nice. Thank you.
Good, of course. I can't wait to stay in touch and buy your art. All right, so last thing for Seed&Spark. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for learning about Taji. What intensely amazing, beautiful artwork. And we have a creative sustainability series tomorrow. It is called Too Soon, Making Jokes in These Uncertain Times. So I definitely recommend that you tune in. We're going to be talking to 3 really amazing comedians about, how to be funny in 2020 in America with the world, the way it is and all of the intense things that have been happening. And next week's Lunch and Learn is going to be a workshop on turning your stay-at-home order into a personal writer's retreat. So definitely tune into those. Just go to seedandspark.com/events to stay up to date on what we're offering. And we really appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much.